Welcome, and I am pleased to have you join us for our webinar, our session. We're doing bonus benefits and things that can enhance your students' learning or give you data from your students or give them data as well.
2-16-30.
So we are recording the meeting, and you should be aware that no data is being collected or stored. I'd ask that you hold all your questions till the end of the session, or you might type them into the chat. We have with me, who is moderating and will be watching that chat, is Brian Bork. And I'll ask that all of the attendees will go ahead and mute your microphones and turn off your webcams. And I'm going to turn off mine and we'll get started. So let me share the right screen. Oh, yeah, we're still on that. So yes, I'm Jane Solis. I'm a Senior Documentation Manager here at Learn On Demand Systems. And hey, post and you could win. Take a picture with or without yourself in it and post it on social media like LinkedIn, Twitter, or Facebook. Mention that you're attending Launch Q3, and we hope you'll say that you are having a great time. And then tag it with Learn On Demand Systems. So we are giving away some gift cards, and Jenny gets to pick her favorites for that. So what are we doing today in this session? This is kind of a la carte session where I took an assortment of items and thought we could talk about them. So they are going to be just a very brief synopsis of each one, and it might pique your interest or make you interested in using one of these items. So we're going to be talking about assessments and surveys. I don't know where surveys went. That's very strange. And SCORM, we're going to be discussing very shortly virtual classes. We'll talk about instructor feedback, what it is, how it can be used, digital courseware integration with SkillPipe, and then how to share your files through a course, through a class, and in the lab interface. And then we're going to go briefly over what discussions are and how they can be used. So let's go in and take a look at everything. Let me change my screen and I'll be right there. So the first thing I was going to talk about is surveys, even though it wasn't listed on my agenda. So what is a survey? A survey is a way for you to collect data from people on and gain some hopeful information and hopefully some insight into the topic that you're interested in. How are surveys then created? Surveys are actually, you'll come into the site administration, there's a surveys tile out there, and you'll get to this create survey page. And it really doesn't look like you can do much here, but what you'll end up doing is inputting a name and hitting save. And once you've done that, you actually get to some different options. So you'll have the option to design, delete, or search for surveys. And design is really the key one that you're looking for there. Surveys do have quite a few different options for questions. And you can see here I can add a page, I can add questions. I have each page set to a different type of question. So the first choices are multiple choice questions with either a single answer that is correct or multiple answers that are correct. The next option for a question is to add a text box, and you can add a single text box, add multiple text box, or add a survey one that's, I think it's like 4,000 characters, might be 40,000. I don't remember right now. We have rating scale questions, and each of your columns can be weighted to a different number amount. So these are 5 down to 1, and one answer can only be made for each row. We also have matrix questions. These are not weighted, and the first one is similar to the rating in that it only allows one answer per row, but the last one here allows you to answer as many as you like per row. So you can design all sorts of different questions there. You can take a preview and look at what it'll look like to your students, and you can say what you like, and you can require questions to be answered and that kind of thing. And my preview is done. So it looks very similar to what we're doing right here. Then the next question is, how are surveys delivered? Surveys can be added at the organization level, and why can't I edit the organization? And under preferences, you can go right on down into default surveys. And if you add these in, then whatever you have added in will be added to any new course and new class that you create. And we have 3 different types of surveys that can be added. You can add a student survey, and you can set when that is available for them. And this will be your default if on the class. So the survey available, and you can choose if it's before the event ends or after the event begins, how many days after it ends that the student can still take it. An instructor survey is only available for an instructor to launch. It's available from when the class is scheduled with a survey on it until the class ends. And the organization survey is only available for operations managers to launch. And again, it's available the same way the instructor survey is. It's available before class until the class ends. So if you set these up, they will be assigned to your courses and to your classes. However, if you go to the course directly and you go to that advanced tab, you can set up a specific survey for your course. So maybe you have a general survey that you want added for everybody, but on this particular course, you want to have to be more focused about it. So you can come here and you can go out and choose a different survey to be added. And I can do like this one and change it up here from whatever it was defaulting to from the organization. And again, I can remove the other ones and not have them. If I do have defaults on the organization, then they are going to come through on any class created from that course. And lastly, you can set up, you can have a class that is using that survey. I thought that I had. Okay, so I'll impersonate my student and we'll take a look at their enrollment so that we can take a look at how the survey appears to them. So they get this end of class survey with a launch button. It's set to appear based on your setup. 4 hours before class ends is the default. And they would be able to then have a launch button there for them to launch it. So that is where the survey is. Students themselves cannot review surveys, but administrators and can. And you can do that directly from the class that it was taken in, so they can export them or just view the survey responses. And you can export them anonymously so that the people taking them aren't showing. And let's see if I actually have results here. So, excuse me. I don't have any responses. That was bad of me. Sorry. Let's go back to my cat survey because I know I have responses on the cat survey. Who wouldn't want to take a cat survey? So I can filter for when they're taken. I can view the responses and who they were by as an administrator. And then I can see my percentage of on the answers, how many people. Nobody likes feral cats. I'm shocked. And I can see the percentage of responses. Then I can go into each of the text answers by clicking on the view responses over here. And if I have a survey response, I can do the same. The rating scale questions, you can see the average underneath the row for the question. So you can see that it's weighted and that it has, and it gives you an average there. And then the matrix questions are just showing you what percent of people and how many actually answered each one of those boxes. So that gives you an idea of surveys. And again, they can be exported, and each of those answers and questions come on a separate row. Okay. Let me keep moving. Assessments. So assessments are our next topic, and assessments are for you to build out questions to evaluate or measure or even be able to report on what your users' educational needs are, how their learning is progressing, and how they are acquiring skills, or how well they are acquiring skills. The assessment works the same way as the survey did, where it's just this little blank field and you put in a name and save it, and all of a sudden you have the assessment here with the design and other links available. So assessments are not as, they don't have as many types of questions. They literally only have a multiple choice with multiple correct answers, or multiple choice with one correct answer. And so you can arrange your questions. One thing that a assessment does that you didn't see on the surveys, let me add a question. There, thank you. Is I can add URLs, links out to websites in order to give a user more information on a subject so that they can study up and have more information about what's going on. And you can also add an answer explanation, which is showing down right here underneath. And it shows if they are able to review the assessment after they've taken it. So that allows you to put in information for them to continue learning even as they're reviewing their assessment. Excuse me, I'm going to need a drink. So that's creating an assessment. How is an assessment delivered? It is actually an activity on a course profile. And so if I go into a course and I'm in the activity section, you can see I have an assessment who is waiting there to be taken. And I can click on Add Assessment and go out and choose from other assessments. So I can have multiple assessments in one course if I wanted to. So it's there as a course activity for our students to see and use. As the manager here, I actually took my assessment, and once the assessment is taken, I can see what my score is on it. And on the course, you can actually set whether or not someone can have retakes or review that assessment once it's been taken. So you have the control over whether or not they can come back and either retake it or review it. So when I'm reviewing my assessment, I can see which answers I chose, because each of my check boxes and my bullet points are radio buttons are marked. If an answer is correct, it is bold and underlined in green. And if I answered incorrectly, it shows that I checked it and it is underlined in red, so I can see where I made my mistakes. And again, I can read, because I'm reviewing the assessment, I can read the question feedback, and I can open up more information and review and get more information about that topic. So that is how a student reviews assessments. Who do we call them? Operations manager can review assessments as well. And that is done from the assessment profile itself, and they'll hit the refined responses, and very similar to the surveys, they can then go in and review individual assessments and see, who it was, when that was taken, um, and um, and then any more information on when, on if it was an event. So, and then they can see all the correct answers or incorrect answers and score that was given. Okay. So that is how they are reviewed. We're going to talk a little bit about SCORM. If I can find my tab with SCORM on it, there it is. And SCORM is a way to package content that you have created so that a learning management system can read it. And that content might be anything from videos to interactive content that you developed, sort of like you might have a computer-based training and be able to read through and then answer questions on different segments and that kind of thing. It's whatever content you've developed, and then you wrap it in a SCORM container and upload it to the TMS. And this is where you upload it. So we allow you to upload SCORM modules. And as you can see, when I open my Create SCORM module, it actually makes me come out and choose a file. We use SCORM 1.2, and it must be a zip format, and it cannot be over 1 gig. And I am going to close this just so we can get to the other part of it, because I don't want to upload a SCORM module right now. And once it's in, it'll give you the name of the package or the file name. It'll input a name based on what you have done in the SCORM. You can add a description. This is really for your other administrators to be able to see and understand what the SCORM file is without having to open it. Your career, or your career rocket, your organization is set here, and it determines who manages or who has access to edit and manage the SCORM. So if I am the parent organization, but someone is an operations manager only of Career Rocket demos, they cannot actually come in here and edit the SCORM, but I can make it available to them to use. We have different evaluation methods that you can implement for your for SCORM. You can, by default, it's either they completed it or it was incomplete. They do have these shareable content objects, and so it could be determined by the last object, whether it was pass or fail, or you can set it so they have to pass or complete all of them, all the objects, in order to pass it, or they'll say have failed. Then you can set up the size of the screen for the SCORM to display in. And you have some other things in here, like it can pull a header from inside your SCORM. You can archive it. If you have a table of contents added, you could show the table of contents. And if you have auto navigation, it can be enabled here as well. And you can choose whether or not you show a course completion message with that module. And then there's a debugging thing that I really don't know anything about, so I'm not going to talk about it. And so SCORM is created, and then how is that SCORM delivered? It is also delivered as a course activity. So when I come into a course profile, I go to activities. Here I have a SCORM module that's been added, and it is available there. I can also add another SCORM module if I like, just by going to the chooser and selecting another SCORM module. So SCORM is there and available for you. As a student, how would I take SCORM? It's available right here on my in my course activities, in my course assignment here. And if I click on it, it's going to open in a new window and it will start playing. And you could watch this to learn how to throw a pottery bowl. That's how exciting that is. I think it's exciting. So that is how it's delivered and consumed. And we're going to move on to talk a little bit about virtual classes. So virtual classes, we have a couple of different options for you to use a virtual classroom within a TMS class. So you have the option of using a full integration for a virtual meeting, or you can have a partial integration. So the both of these options allow you to control when the students or instructors are allowed into the virtual classroom, how long before the class, and how long after the class is over they still have access to get back into the virtual meeting. And I'm kind of lying there because our custom virtual classroom doesn't allow that right now, but it will probably on Friday. And if not, it'll be 2 weeks from then. So very soon they'll have that option. And the full integration, however, allows you a couple of different things. So we have two full integrations. One is with Adobe Connect and the other is with Zoom. And when you have a contract with them, you can contact us in order to have it set up for you inside of the TMS. And when that is integrated like that, one of the benefits is when I go out and create a class and I set it to be delivered virtually, I'm going to go to the delivery section and I can choose virtual or physical in virtual to set up a virtual class. I can choose my Adobe Connect. I can also have Zoom set up, and I can still use custom virtual classroom to use a different meeting host if I wanted to. So once I have this set up, it's going to go out to Adobe Connect. It's going to create that meeting for me. I don't have to go out and do it myself. And when you have virtual meeting sessions that are recorded, those recordings become available to your students and anybody who can access the class as an instructor or an operations manager can also open those recordings and view them. So those are automatically done with a full integration. If I actually just have the custom virtual classroom set up and I save it, right now, when I save this, it's going to show the Enter Classroom button. What we're going to be adding into this section is once that custom virtual classroom is selected, you'll be able to do things like set the instructor pre-launch window for when they can actually enter the classroom, the student, how long before the class starts they can enter the classroom, and if you want people to be able to get into the class after the class session end time, class session end time, then you can set times for that. So if like your students and instructors are having a discussion and if it's set to 0 here and a student gets bumped out and class is 10 minutes over, they're not going to be able to enter back into that virtual classroom and get back into the discussion. So you can set these to 0 or you can set them to something like 30 minutes after the class is over so that anybody can still partake of the discussions. So with a custom, if you're using the custom virtual classroom, you have to go over to whatever virtual meeting provider you're using or want to use. And once you create your meeting, you can copy the URL for that meeting and paste it right into this section. When you create that, your class in the when you create the class, you're going to add it in here, and you are not able to give access to recordings here. You have to do that manually by sending them out to your students. And yeah, it doesn't do the push for you as well. So let's see, I think I had recording somewhere. Do I? Oops, there's no recordings here for this one, but if there were, maybe it's the next one. No, I lied. It will show a listing of the date and time of the session, how long it is. And then you'll have this little watch icon over here that allows you to add, open it. It's the link, oopsie, that opens the session video and audio. And you might be wondering what availability is down here. You can add you can add availability and set up who can actually come in and find the recording and listen to it. So by default, it's only available to the enrolled students. You can change it to any of these options as you wish. You can also just set it to find a particular person and allow that person to have access to that recording. And then you could also sign it by user role, like maybe you have something all your instructors might want to view. When they have access to this, they can find the recording link on their transcript. So they'd go to their transcript and there's a recording area down there at the bottom where they can find it. So recordings can be made available to others. That is all I was going to talk about in Virtual Meeting Host. Let's talk a little bit about instructor feedback. So instructor feedback is a supplemental item that is added, a role that is added on for, in this case, my instructor has a supplemental role for instructor feedback for instructors. And the student I'm going to demonstrate also has a supplemental role for instructor feedback for students. And then my manager would have one for instructor feedback for managers to view. And what is instructor feedback? Let me impersonate my instructor. And let's go back to being my instructor over here. Actually, I do want to be on the roster. And because this instructor can add instructor feedback, I get these little bubble speaking icon in here. And when I click on it, I can change that if I want, and I can just add information in here. You may want to do this if your students are turning in assignments and the instructor can then just type in feedback based on the assignment. Or if it's something else that they want to have for interaction within the class. Now I'm going to show you what a student sees with instructor feedback. So if I impersonate Jane here, and I'm in her enrollment, let me refresh. So I'm her. Underneath my activities, as I go down, I get to my instructor feedback. So if there's multiple feedback items left, I would see multiple items listed here as I go, and I can review them all. So that is instructor feedback. It is something that you can see. And as an administrator, I can also look at instructor feedback. I go to the class enrollments tile right here, and I can go to find instructor feedback. And when I search, I'll see any feedback that is left and what class it was with and whether or not it was reviewed by the student. So you can add like who the instructor was and some other details if you want as columns here. So that's available to you as the manager as well. Let's go on then. Digital courseware. What is digital courseware? So SkillPipe is the one type of digital courseware that we have that can be enabled for single sign-on within a class enrollment. Students enrolled in mock course classes can see the Access Courseware button once the class is started. The student's primary email address in their TMS user profile has to match the SkillPipe account email address. And they need to, the first time they're using it, they have to register or authenticate. And then after that, any subsequent sign on, it will not require them to input their password. So let's take a look-see. So I have a mock course right here, class that's scheduled. And who do I have that's in it? Surprisingly, I have student Jane in it. And let's go to her and impersonate her and go to her enrollment. And you can see here she gets an access courseware button. And when I hit that, it will ask me to register, I believe. Yeah, fill out my registration information. And I could register. Or if I already have an account, I could actually click here and open the login and then input my email and my password. And the next time that I come in here, it's not going to require that from me. Once I am in, it will take me straight to my bookshelf. And if the course is already open, they can just open it off their bookshelf. If not, they can add in the courseware code and redeem it and access their courseware from there. So you can integrate that in there for the students to be able to use and not have to have it outside of the class. And let's see. Let's look at a couple of other ways that I can get information into my students' hands. I can add files directly on a course profile. So anytime that I add materials here, or manage resources actually, I want to manage resources. When I manage resources, I can upload files. So I can click here to add another resource. The file types I can add then are Word docs, PowerPoints, a text file, zip files, Excel, and then some different types of image files. And you would choose your file. Yeah, let's just do that one. And put in a description. It makes you do that. I feel like it. Oh yeah, it is asterisked. And you can choose then who has visibility of it. So you could make this file only available to instructors in the class, or you could make it only available to students in the class, or both. So when you save that, it's going to be added as part of the files that, in this case, that students can download as well as instructors. So that is on the course profile itself. And I can also add files either as an instructor or a manager directly on the class. So if I'm in here and I'm an instructor or a manager, I still get those course resources down here, as will my students be able to open those as well. And I can manage and add files here on the class itself. And maybe I have specific files that I want to share and have available for my class. And description. And then I can choose whether or not it's just for me to be able to see, or an admin or instructor, or if it's also available to my students. So then I can save. It does tell you, hey, this is only going to be saved for a year, and then it's going to be deleted. And if I go to details, I'll go back to my class profile. And you're going to get there from manage files as an instructor or an administrator. As a instructor, I guess I was going to do that as an instructor. And if I go back to being student Jane and impersonating her and go to her enrollment, let's hope that magically it's there. So there are she does have access to a different course, apparently. She does have access to the file and a file for students from the class. And that is where the students find them, right underneath all of their activities, class activities. Let's see if I can find where I was. Maybe I was doing that. Interesting. Okay. Oh, I know what I want to do next. I want to be the instructor. Where's the instructor? Okay. Sorry, I got lost on my tabs because there's so few tabs here to actually get lost in. Here, I want to be you. And I want to impersonate my instructor. And I want to go to my class and update it. And I can share files directly into the lab interfaces as an instructor. And when I go into monitor labs, I hope that my lab over there is still running. Oops, it was saved. I'm resuming the lab. And I can go into my monitor labs here. So it might take a couple of minutes. That's unfortunate. But I can share files here, and it will go to all of my, why aren't you seeing that? Do I have the wrong class? I do. Fuckers. I knew I'd get mixed up in here. Which one is he in? I think he's in class management. Let us close that and stop impersonating. And actually, let's go to my calendar. What do I want? Class management. Let me just check. Windows 10 example. Is that what I have? Yes. Sorry. Let's see if this one works. So I have to be in the class that I'm actually monitoring, don't I? I can monitor labs as the administrator as well. So we'll do it this way. And hopefully, yay, I found my student. Then I can come in and I can share files and it will go directly into their lab interface. So this is fun. So I go to share my ISO file. And so you have to create an ISO file in order to share the materials into the lab interface. And once you have uploaded it, and you can upload multiple files from here and choose which ones you're sharing and click OK. And where is the exciting lab? Over here. So this is my student's lab, and he gets a little message saying that you've had this file shared with you, and you can go to the resources tab and open that file from the DVD drive list. So when I go to resources and I have a DVD drive, I can actually open that file from here. So that's pretty fun stuff. And that is how you can share directly into a lab interface with your students. What do I have on our list next? Oh, it's our last piece. And I have 5 minutes to do it in. So we're going to talk about discussions. What are discussions? Discussions are enabled on the course. A discussion is in place to post questions, answer questions, interact about the subject matter. And this is available for any user that has taken the course through a class or a self-paced training. You can also set up moderators directly for a class or a discussion. That's what I'm talking about. If I am a student and I'm in a class that has discussions, I should have a link right over here to open up that discussion. Why am I not impersonating? Because I hit the wrong button. That would explain it a lot. And so I can partake in a discussion here from an enrollment, and it allows me to, we have different topics that are created in the discussion itself, and that is done either by a moderator or the manager of the ops manager. And so they can create different topics. And then within the topics, I can add a post or look at other people's posts about the topic as well. So as a student, then I can go in and work with this. If I am I didn't want to stop impersonating, did I? I'm suspicious. I don't think I want Jesse at all. In a course assignment, a student can open they have a tab for discussions right on the course assignment. And that was the class I was supposed to be in. And let me see. You can enable discussions. Jesse doesn't get to do that. You can enable discussions from the course. So there's a discussion field right here on the course, and you can go out and choose which discussion it is available, it is accessible from. And you can add the same discussion to multiple courses, but only one discussion to a course. And once that is enabled, your student can see it from, this is probably where I had the impersonate and go into their enrollment, voila, and be able to get to their discussion and their course assignment to be able to get into a discussion, not a description, a discussion, and be able to input information and post. Whew, I have a couple of tabs to get rid of in there. And last but not least, as a manager, operations manager, you can come in and create a discussion, or you can and create discussions, or you can open the discussions that exist. You can go in and see all the posts and come through them and look at each one by topic. You can also, let's go back a little more further. You can also edit it, and you can, here's where you can create new topics. Like I very creatively added a new topic there. And you can add moderators. And so you'll go in and you can find anybody who has a moderating permission and then add them on to be a moderator for that discussion. So that is, as they say, that. And let me go back to my slides. And let's see if I can pick the right one this time, Jenny. So that was us looking at the features. We do have some resources available to you. You can get to any of these topics by clicking on the help link in the TMS and going to the administrator tab, and you'll see different topic categories underneath there. So you can also go to lods.one/documentation, and that will take you directly there. And you can look up, we have sections that are on assessments and surveys. We have SCORM is part of course activities, virtual classes is part of class scheduling and enrollments. Sharing files would be in there as well. And I think discussions have their very own category. We'd love it if you'd share your feedback. If you go into your enrollment, there's a link out to a survey, and we would love to have your input on what you thought of the session. We'd also, if you have a feature request, you can make one by going to lods.one/feedback. And don't forget to post a picture and potentially win a gift card. Hey, okay.